Started. So welcome to the Lifesaving Studies webinar on planting seeds for the future and of aquatics. I'm Kevin Button, a member of the Aquatic Lifeguard Services Committee since 2009 and aquatic supervisor for the City of Hamilton. My co-host is Robin Rankin, member of Lifeguard Services Committee since 2010 and recreation programmer for the aquatics with the City of Barrie. This 1 hour webinar will showcase the Town of Essex and the City of Kitchener as Lifesaving Society affiliates and leaders in their community at large. We're going to learn how they're planting seeds to develop future leaders in aquatics through mentorship programs. Some of the programs include the Essex Swim and Lifesaving Club, the Essex Emerging Leaders, and Kitchener's core program. I would like to welcome Sarah Newton, Assistant Manager of Aquatics, Town of Essex, to her presentation.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see a lot of familiar faces. And just thanks to the Lifesaving Society and the National Lifeguard Services Committee for the opportunity to share a little bit about the Town of Essex and kind of a few of the programs that we are running. Everybody can hear me okay? So we'll go to the next slide. So I just wanted to kind of highlight where we are located in Ontario. Maybe not everybody is familiar with where we're at. So we are down in the south, just outside of Windsor. So you can see on the map, I've just kind of highlighted a few of our neighboring municipal affiliates. And you can see there our 2021 population statistics. And so you can see we're a pretty small town, a fairly large geographic area, but we just have one indoor pool. The other municipalities that are circled there also have pools as well. Obviously, they are neighboring affiliates. So down in Leamington, they have one indoor pool. The town of Lakeshore is also highlighted there by Bell River. They have 40,000. That's a fairly large geographic area, and they also only have one indoor pool. Town of Tecumseh has an outdoor pool. City of Windsor has a couple of indoor pools, as well as some outdoor pools. They also have St. Clair College and University of Windsor, who are also affiliates. And then the town of LaSalle is another neighboring municipality that has an indoor pool and an outdoor pool. And together, we work really hard together to kind of run some really great programs. And even though we are kind of our own municipality, our own affiliates, we have a really great partnership. So yeah, this is our pool. We are a 4-lane, 25-meter pool. We have a leisure pool and a water slide, Tarzan rope. And as well, we have in the middle there, I don't know if you can tell, we have a therapy pool with jets. Our demographics in Essex is pretty reflective of the entire region, Essex County. And this is just showcasing our 0 to 24-year-old age group population. And it is about a quarter of our entire population. And I just highlighted that because that's the demographics that we are targeting for, of course, swimming lessons and our leadership classes as well. Yep, next slide. So some statistics there just to show you from kind of right before COVID and then coming out of COVID, what our registration numbers are like. So the top line is our swimming lessons and the bottom line is our leadership. So clearly a huge growth in our demand for swimming lessons, which I think is pretty reflective of the entire region, Windsor, Essex County. And then our leadership is pretty continual, but just we do well, like for the amount of people that we have in our municipality. Just to give you a sense, like we have won the Scarborough Cup, the Lifesaving Society Scarborough Cups 12 times in the past 16 years, which is awarded to a municipality that has 10 to 15,000 and it's a single affiliate. So 12 times in the last 16 years. And we have other municipalities in Essex County who are also in the top, 5 to 10 continuously. So this region does really well with offering leadership courses and we encourage our staff to take as many courses they can with us or with neighboring municipalities as well. Just of note too, I thought it was maybe something to say here that we offer all required qualifications for our staff at cost. So they don't pay anything more than the certification fee when they're taking courses through us. We also encourage them to take additional courses, and we generally run them as low fee as we can, just to kind of cover our costs as well. And this, of course, makes some really strong staff with a lot of qualifications, which we can tap into on deck as well. Next slide. So I'm just highlighting two of our programs. One of them is the Essex Women Lifesaving Club. And of course, it's a lifesaving club. We have done, just in the last year and a half, really grown this club quite significantly, which I'll talk a little bit about. You can go to the next slide. So we've offered the sport fundamentals program since 2010. So it has been a long time, but we've never really had a really strong uptake in the fundamentals program. We always offer it. We have very low registration continuously, but it is just an opportunity to provide some swimmers with a little bit of an extra program to do. As people know, that's like your 8 to 13-year-old target audience and completed swimmer 3. So with the Essex Women Lifesaving Club, we started a junior team and a senior team. And you can see the age requirements for the junior team, senior team. And part of it was we had one particular full-time staff that was super passionate about trying to develop this club, and has taken the lead and put in a ton of work into this club. And one of the things we wanted to do was offer a fitness opportunity for our staff and for lifeguards in our region to kind of get together, keep up on their fitness, and of course, practice their skills. So the first 6 months of the program, we did it free of charge. And it didn't matter if you were on staff or not, if you wanted to come. And this was for the senior team. So this was lifeguards. Primarily the first 6 months was our staff, and then staff from other municipalities in our region that would come and join us for free. And then now we've kind of moved on from that, but you can go to the next slide. So we've had some really great interest in the club. We have staff and also non-aquatic staff who come out actually and swim with us just for fun, play some games. We always kind of finish with some underwater hockey or some water polo, those kinds of things at every practice. And our cost is now $4.50 to drop in. And we also offer registration as well, but it's the same, it's $4.50. So super reasonable. It's a 2-hour practice. And we have, as you can tell, grown quite substantially over the last 2 years with our registration numbers. So those numbers on the bottom corner are our registration numbers. We've also just in 2024 have had about 330 or so drop in attendance over this course of the year so far. So some great, you can just see the growth and the development. And our hopes are that, we're going to get some other clubs started up in our region too. So you can go to the next slide. We also are super lucky. We have had, the City of Windsor has hosted the CPLCs in 2023. And we were able to send a group of our senior swimmers to compete at CPLCs. And then Town of Essex hosted the Ontario Lifeguard Championships earlier this year in 2024, and we're hosting them again in 2025, which is a huge staff development opportunity for our staff to practice their skills. We offer telegames, which has been really successful, and we have always offered that. We allow our fundamentals kids to participate, even in just one event if they're really in the kind of the grassroots of the sport. And up in the top corner, you'll see one of our athletes, Peyton, who's only, I think she's now 12, but she often comes to our senior drop-in practice, even though she's kind of not 14 yet, but she's been participating quite a bit, super passionate. And she's just one example of somebody who just can't wait to finish all their qualifications and start working here too. So we really tapped into a really great group of really young kids who are competing. They've gone all around Ontario. Parents are buying in, they're helping on deck during our telegames. And again, it comes down to our staff being putting in a ton of work to it. We also sent 11 athletes to CPLCs in BC this past June, which was super exciting. And that's because the team did a ton of work to get sponsors and do some fundraisers. So even though it is a Town of Essex program, it kind of runs a little bit as standalone with the coaches and the staff that are involved, putting in a lot of work to make it a successful program. And it's growing, and our staff are excited about being a part of it. Next slide. So another program I wanted to highlight was our Essex Emerging Leaders, which we started in 2023. And we put it together so that we had an opportunity to tap into our 14-year-olds who we just kind of wanted to make sure we weren't losing them before they turned 15 and would continue on taking their courses. And there's also a lot of people asking for volunteer opportunities. So this is a no-cost program for 14-year-olds to participate. They register, they pick a day, they register for the whole 7-week session, because we run 7-week sessions. And they attend for 2 hours and they help the instructors in the water. Because we require assistant instructors and high five before they can take the EEL program. We don't really have to worry too much about doing a lot of training with them, because they are already coming in with that underlying understanding of how they can help the instructors. We give them a t-shirt on their very first time they register, and we also offer them a little bit of a discount if they take their instructor school when they turn 15, if they participate in this program. So you can see the numbers aren't that big. We haven't had that many people participate, but we have been able to hire 5 of those candidates that participated in this program so far. So in the past year, we've hired 5 of them, and it really makes our onboarding, our bringing them onto our team pretty successful, because they've already kind of been in our staff room and hanging out with our staff. So it's been really a positive program. You can go to the next slide. And the feedback from those candidates that have participated so far has also been really positive. So yeah, next slide. And I just wanted to kind of lastly finish off with giving you an indication of just these 2 programs where we can see the amount of people interested in working in the Town of Essex has increased substantially. So that dark blue line is showing you the amount of applications that we've had just in the last 2 years has way far exceeded the amount of staff that we need to have. We definitely do not have a shortage of lifeguards. And I think that running these types of programs is going to continue to help drive that staffing need. So that's it.
Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. I had a couple questions for you. So in your emerging leaders program, do you have it as your only volunteer program for your aquatics, or is it an offshoot of different programs?
We've never had a volunteer program before. So no, this is the only one. And we have allowed candidates who were in assistant instructors. And that's good to know. We require assistant instructors. We're the only pool in our region that makes it a requirement to take before they take their instructor school. And we feel that it has made a huge difference in the quality of our candidates going into instructor school, having done the assistant. And we certainly do lose some people. They'll say, well, never mind, I'll go take it elsewhere because they don't have their assistant. But for us, it's a worthwhile course to offer. So yes, those candidates we would previously allow to occasionally drop in, but this has really allowed us to have a bit more control of who's coming, when are they coming, and what are they actually gaining from it.
This is a sessional training program, or do you say, okay, at the beginning of the year and then maybe at the middle of the year, or is it every session you're going to preemptively do that?
Yeah, every session. It's in the computer just as another program, and parents can go ahead and register, and it asks them what's t-shirt size, and it does say you're only going to get one on your first time registering. So they can come Saturdays for 7 weeks and then switch to Tuesday nights for another 7 weeks. And again, like I think probably a lot of us, there's not a lot of kids who take the courses like in an ideal way. So ideally, if they took assistant instructors right at 14, they'd have a whole year to be able to do the EEL program. But a lot of times they're taking the EL program right before instructor school. They did their assistant, then they go into an EL program, and then they do their instructors all within like a fairly short time frame. But it still is, again, increasing the quality of our instructors because they've gone through that and they've done a bunch of extra volunteer hours.
And there's a lot of great feedback on that. Have you received feedback from your staff on the benefit of them coming in already pre-trained through that assistant program?
Certainly there are some who are stronger than others who are volunteering and who actually kind of really get involved in the classes. We aren't turning them away, even if they are, their parents are signing them up and they don't really want to be there. We're using them how we can. And so certainly there are, like we said, we have hired 5 of them, and they have been 5 that have really shown us, like, it makes it easier for us when we go to hire too. We've already seen you work. We've seen you take initiative. We've seen you work with the kids. Our staff have a good relationship with you. So that all makes a big difference too.
It's great. And one question about your ESLC. Do you find that your drop-in programs are feeding into your registered, or are you having different clients or different groups that are looking more for the fitness side of it on the drop-in side, and then the others that are registered are more into it more intensely? Or is it, or is like, what do you see from that?
So good question. And also, because we're a 4-lane pool, it doesn't allow us with a ton of space. So we do offer the fundamentals 3 days a week, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. And then we have our senior program, has been for the last 1.5 years, just Sunday nights. It was kind of dead pool time. So our senior program has been 2 hours Sunday nights, and we had a junior program right before the senior program. So we could actually ask some of our staff who are coming to senior program to help coach. So they can register. We make Sunday nights, the junior program, a technical program or technical drop-in. The registration versus drop-in is the exact same price. So a lot of people are dropping in because they might not be able to make it every week. And that's fine with us. So they're doing technical on Sunday nights. And then we have an early morning Saturday time that is fitness based. So they are doing sport events, but it is more of a swim team practice style. And I know somebody else asked in the chat box, I saw it pop up, that we do not have a swim team in Essex. There are 2 competitive swim clubs in Windsor and 1 competitive swim club in Leamington. So we're right in the center of those 2, but we do not have a swim team in Essex.
All right, that's great. Thank you very much. Robin, is there any questions in the chat group that you want to address for this presentation?
Sarah answered the question actually with regards to the competitive swim team. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to move on to our second group. And so we have Patrick King, Aquatic Manager, Adam Brott, and Kelly Rush, Supervisor of Aquatics from the City of Kitchener. And they're going to go through and talk about their programming. Just welcome, Patrick and
Hi,
team.
everyone. So what we're going to be covering today is we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about our core training program, how we develop our staff team to help develop and build to our leadership program, and talking a little bit about our retention of our current aquatic staff and how we develop our encourage them to stick around with us as long as we can. So we'll move on to the next slide. We're going to talk about our core training program. I think this is the 3rd year of us doing this program. What we've done is we've centralized our training. We have 2 3-hour trainings that include both wet and dry activities. It's a requirement that all of our deck aquatic staff attend. So from our aquatic assistants to head guards, they're required to attend. We have about, I believe, 10 to 12 sessions per block in September to December and January to June. And we offer about 32 spots per program. So what that does is provide our part-time aquatic team opportunities to attend that fits their schedule. I believe we've moved this year to scheduling them into the time slots based on their availability. and that has worked out to be a little bit more attention focus for our team. We've seen a much better attendance, and we're not our staff aren't scrambling at the end of the time period to register for the last session and it's full already. So it's worked out a little bit better this year doing that. So all the core trainings, they're all the same. All 10 sessions or 12 sessions are the same. The content's the same. It's developed by Kelly, who oversees our training and leadership content currently. You know, every session there, we cover different topics. We have an overarching plan on what we want to cover for the year, but we ensure that if there are some immediate concerns or things we need to address, we ensure that we spend the adequate time covering those areas. I know a prime example was in the first year coming out of COVID, we noticed there's some lack in first aid skills. So we spent a little bit more time managing those first aid skills and supporting those first aid skills, and a little bit less time on some of the other content. All of our core trainings are led by a member of our advanced leadership instructor team, which also includes supervisors and myself who are qualified to deliver that content. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. So as I said, in these trainings, we really focus on the lifeguarding skills and first aid skills. We have in the instructional side, we've implemented doing huddles that are specific to the to instructional programming, but this is geared towards guarding and first aid skills. Having it this way allows our part-time staff to participate in smaller groups and really practice the focus is practicing their skills, and allows the leadership instructors to help facilitate some good practice, but also to ensure that, you know, when they leave that training, those skills are competent enough for them to be on the pool deck. So we do have multiple facilities in Kitchener, and the core trainings aren't geared towards specific facilities. So you'll end up working with people from a variety of different facilities. For me, it's very important for us to do this as we want to get to a point within our staff that they're not stuck at one facility, that they have the ability to work everywhere and get to know people everywhere. So we've seen a huge benefit of having these core trainings and people getting to know each other, and relationships have spawned from there. So on the retention side of things, we've seen some great possibilities for relationship growth. It also provides an opportunity for those our aquatic leadership team members to get opportunity to flex their leadership muscles and their delivery muscles outside of the traditional programs like our National Lifeguard or our first aid courses that they would teach. This is another opportunity for them to build their leadership, but it also gives new instructors an opportunity to practice and build skills, so when they deliver the courses on themselves, they have a little bit more experience for them to deliver from. Next slide. So we cover, here are some of the key things we cover in our core trainings. We practice resuscitation skills. We're making sure that they're using the proper equipment. We discuss being rescue ready. We've practiced use of rescue tubes. We review scanning and the RID factor. We talk about guarding from an elevated station versus walking station. We do activities revolving around that to pinpoint situations where either or are important and relevant to make a decision on what position you should be. We work on the management items in from National Lifeguards, such as drowning out swimmer, injured swimmer, submerged swimmer, first aid scenario and scenarios. And we do small group lifeguard sits, and we also do some physical skills as well. And I think the physical skills, give me a thumbs up, Kelly. It's less revolving around just doing the physical skills, but more around doing workouts and getting active in the water, and to ensure that they have the skill set. We do also require on years that they're not recertifying for all our staff to go through the physical skills. So we would have that like tagged on to a core training, like an hour before people can come in and do their skills to be evaluated by a national lifeguard instructor. So all of our core trainings are planned out. Kelly meets with the team that will be delivering the trainings beforehand, and they have basically a training to go over all the content themselves to ensure that everyone's delivering the same content. We get feedback from the instructors, but also participants, and we modify our delivery based on that feedback. Our goal is that it's active and engaging. That's why we focus on small group activities and small group, even when we get to situations, they're doing it in small groups so that people aren't just sitting around, and it's active. We want to make sure that those 3 hours that they're spending are well worth us investing the money into that training. What we moved to, I think last year, was we had each small group has a head guard or someone with lots of experience leading that team, and we saw a huge change in the participation by those head guards too. They took a little bit more of a leadership role and actually helped facilitate a lot of the content and support the leadership instructors when having when they're busy with someone else, the head guards would step in to help provide some feedback as well, which was really great to see. Next slide. So on top of our core trainings, we also do our site-specific training. What us separating the core from the site-specific, it's led to our site-specific to be specific to the facilities that they work at. So they're required their home facility to go to a site-specific training. I believe we have one in the fall and one in the prior to the summer, because we often have different staff teams throughout the year and in the summer. And so they'll go over things that focus specifically on the facility, like challenges with guarding at those facilities, talking about ramps, warm water pools versus the cooler water pools, how to use the lift, emergency procedures at those facilities, but also go over swim lesson content for those specific facilities, where certain lessons go, where certain lessons shouldn't go, that kind of stuff. Next slide. So the other part of it is we try and provide opportunity for staff development. We offer a variety of instructor trainer and instructor courses throughout the year. We do a variety of different examiners and AST courses and pool operator courses. We've created kind of a training plan for all of our positions and what are the requirements, and we ensure that there's opportunities for staff to take these courses. You can go to the next slide. What we've done to facilitate this is any of the on top of the research and any of the courses they take, they only have to pay the exam fee. If they want to become a trainer or an instructor, we have a process where they can submit basically what would you call an email saying that they're interested in participating in that program. I think there's a form potentially, and if they meet the criteria for that position, we will fund their participation. If if they want to just take it themselves, they can also just pay. If they don't meet that criteria, the internal criteria we have, they can go pay out of pocket to take it, and we'll encourage them to do that. And then we keep our advanced leadership instructors separate from our instructors. It's a different position, so it allows them an opportunity to apply for that role, and work and teach our bronze med, bronze cross courses. And any kind of mentoring is also handled internally. Kelly takes care of that stuff. It helps facilitate the learning of the new instructors and instructor trainers. Sorry, you can move ahead there, Kevin.
Sorry, I got ahead of you.
That's all right. So throughout this change over the last couple of years, we've seen a huge increase in the amount of trainers and instructors and examiners, as well as ITs, to a point where we're self-reliant on all of our programming. Internally, all of our National Lifeguard, all the way through to trainer courses, are all delivered internally. The only one we're not quite there yet is the instructor trainer side. But we'll get there at some point whenever a national trainer, we'll get someone who's a national trainer on board. We offer a large push for this is we're opening a large new facility in the near future. And we saw that we had a bit of we were self-sufficient. We were processing enough instructors and lifeguards to sustain what we needed right now, but we're looking to, this new facility is going to dramatically increase the need for lifeguard instructors. And so part of this was to build up our ability to ramp up those programming. So we needed to ramp up the amount of instructors and examiners we had. And by doing so, we've, as Sarah commented, we're not in a lifeguard shortage anymore. I don't think we didn't hire any new lifeguards or aquatic staff for the majority of 2023 until I think September this year. Is that right, Kelly? Yeah. We've been self-sufficient, as well as relying a lot on hiring aquatic assistants. That's been very helpful too, and developing them at a younger age, and having them participate in swim lessons has really helped that continuum grow. And go to the next slide. And
You're done.
That's it.
All right. Thank you. That's great, Patrick. Thanks so much for sharing. How many staff do you guys have?
I think aquatics specifically, I think we're around 280 to 300, depending on the time of the year.
And approximately how many facilities right now?
We have 4 indoor facilities, 4 outdoor facilities. We are opening in 2026 another indoor facility.
It's amazing. Why did you switch this training module? It seems that it was sort of around COVID timeframe, and obviously reopening had a chance to probably think about it. But what was the reasoning behind the switch?
My perspective, and Kelly, you can throw in the chat if it's something different. But what we recognized was we were finding when we had all of our trainings at site specific, there wasn't that consistency. We found that they were being led by head guards who may not be who may have experience, but may not have the experience delivering the content. And so it was for us to ensure that all our staff are trained properly, we moved to more of a centralized approach. There wasn't anything wrong with how we were doing it in the past. It was more we felt that we would get more out of the centralized approach, these core trainings. It also allowed our team to not every supervisor around the table had to focus on we have one supervisor that's responsible for the training, and they can focus their time and energy on leadership and training, while the other ones can focus on some other areas. And it helps us move things forward a lot quicker and easier. So I think all in all, it was to ensure that our part-time staff were properly trained and much more, and they were getting much more out of the trainings that we were providing.
It's great. So you mentioned at the beginning, some first aid was a little bit less. Do you adjust your training plan each year or each session based on either feedback or what is your trigger points for adjusting trainings as you go throughout the year?
We have a core list of things we need to cover. What changes though is the amount of time we may spend on those things. So we noticed after the first core training that, you know, we went in thinking like, you know, saying, hey, you know what, they're all certified. Let's just do resuscitation. And we found that we couldn't just do resuscitation. And so the next core training, we spent actually reviewing it and going over it. The ultimate goal is that because you do it so often and through an orientation process, we bring people to where we need them to be. We are really trying to push the flexibility on how much time we spend on each topic so that we can free up time to, you know, if there are some really linchpin items that we need to focus on, we can focus on those items.
Okay. And with getting your staff, you offer a lot of advanced leadership courses, which is great, like your instructors and things like that. What's the motivation or what is the drive for them to offer it? Because I know that a lot of municipalities have troubles providing courses even yearly, if not every 2 years for those. And you were running 2 a year for a bunch of them. So how did you get that motivation?
I think there's some financial motivation. The leadership instructor pays quite well. I think that's a factor, comparative to just a normal instructor. And as well, I think like one thing we're really working on is building that prestige, right? Like that sense of you are, you know, you're part of the team. We're doing better for the team. You can help instill. You may not be able to work, you know, a normal swim lesson. You've moved on to other school or whatever, but you can commit to a bronze cross course on the weekend every session, or 2 or 3 bronze cross over a session. There's that way to keep them connected and engaged even as after they've you know, left the pool deck for a period of time.
That's great. Thank you. Robin, are there any questions in the chat?
We do. We have one. How many full-time aquatic positions do you have at your facilities?
We have a full-time, there's 7 aquatic specific full-time member, 8, including myself, full-time specific to aquatics for all of our facilities.
And
so
are they facility specific?
Yes and no. They have areas of responsibility of certain facilities, but we're really trying to move to more of a centralized approach. So for example, we have 4 supervisors currently, and they all have an area that they're responsible for. So from the one's responsible for all the administrative tasks, and the administrative side, one's responsible for leadership and training, one's responsible for programming, just general swim lesson programming, but they're ultimately responsible for the budgets. We have coordinators who coordinate the programming at each of the 3 of the indoor pools, 3 of the 4 indoor pools, and they all support each other and cover each other off. Yeah, so that's where we're at.
That's great. Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to move on to some discussion topics. And I'm going to get both Sarah and Patrick to jump in, or Adam or Kelly, if you're able to, just in some different things. So under training and development, are you hiring 15-year-olds? And if yes, how has you modified your training to address the younger ages?
We are.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
I'll let Sarah go first.
Thanks, Patrick. We are hiring 15-year-olds. We did not adjust our training. Really, we've just thrown them in, and you know, we know that, again, they have the qualification, and yes, I don't think the 15-year, they do need hand holding, but so do our 16-year-olds and so do our 17-year-olds. They need a lot of more massaging and work. But we really try hard to support our staff from the top down. We only have one full-time deck, myself, and then one full-time deck supervisor. And then all of my staff are all students. But we try really hard to give them the skills that they need and work with them. And we know sometimes they learn on the job, and we help them develop those skills as they go. But we don't change anything for the 15-year-olds.
And Patrick?
Yeah, so we haven't really changed much with the 15-year-olds. Same as Sarah. I see this as an opportunity. Just, you know, the younger they are, the less made up in their mind on what the expectations are. So we're able to start from the point of orientation through to the training on the I've seen the need for hand holding, as Sarah said, any age really right now. So we've really been, that's why we're scheduling staff for training, right? Like that's why we've moved into that direction where we are scheduling staff for every training they do with us, they are being scheduled for, because we've recognized that. But it's not just 15-year-olds, it's everyone is struggling with that. We do hire, I see there's a question, and we do hire assistants at 14. We don't hire many, but at 14, but there is that possibility for us to hire at 14.
Sarah, do you hire assistants at 14?
Nope, that's why we developed that EL program.
Okay. All right. So talking about that mentorship that you both brought up, do you have specific programs that you were or encouragement or expectations of your more seasoned staff to help mentor those new staff? Because like both of you has talked about a lot of hand holding, and I agree with the multiple. It's the ages that don't really matter. It's more of what they're bringing to the table. So do you have anything specific about mentoring that you've sort of tried to enact outside of your presentations?
I can start with that. What we've done is started to do more head guard specific trainings. So we try and facilitate, and I wouldn't call them trainings, more professional development. So we try and arrange 2 sessions a year where we do some sort of professional development with all of our head guards across the city. Either it's conflict resolution or pool operation side of things. We try and, we as a team, we recognize areas of concerns. And then what we do is we will try and find someone who can speak on it or provide us a training, and we would deliver it.
Sarah?
That's great. We also do, we call them coordinators, but our deck head guards, we do trainings with them as well. And maybe not so intense, just to make sure we get together and we're all on the same page. Last year, we were also able to start a new senior instructor position, which we just identified anybody that has been working. They don't have to be a coordinator. They can be an instructor that has had 1 year of experience. And any of our lesson nights that have more than 7 instructors, we have a senior staff or senior instructor in the water. So that's an in-water position that kind of helps out our new staff or helps out with kids that are having a hard time, and also gives them the opportunity to assist the supervisor on duty that night with evaluations and giving feedback, and kind of preps them for potential future position as a supervisor. Sometimes those senior instructors are coordinators or supervisors themselves, but a lot of times they're just senior staff. And they get paid the same as our instructors, but they don't have the responsibility of report cards or anything like that. And they all really love that position. And it just has made a really big difference in supporting the staff in the water.
That's great. Thanks. So sort of under the heading of job satisfaction engagement, is there any aspects of the job that your employees dislike, and how have you tried to address it and deal with it I know we talked a lot about hand holding, but have you heard anything different or had anything different where they're disliking the job, but you've tried some incentives to help make it better? Patrick?
Coming into the role, a large comment was pay. So we worked to go to council to get increase the wages, and then and that's helped a lot. I think the biggest challenge for us is, I think coming out of COVID, there's been a perspective change on priorities, and work is not a priority anymore in the teenage world, at least here in Kitchener. And if they didn't like it, they'll leave. They'll find something else, right? It's not necessarily don't like the job; it's the impact the job has on their life, I think, is the bigger thing. So we've had to be much more flexible with how we do things. So that's why the core training is great. In our traditional setup, we only had 2 options if you worked at a certain facility for you to go to training. We have 12 options that they can then, if they can't make it to the one they're scheduled, they can ask to be moved to another one, right? Like, it allows some flexibility there. And that's one thing I know I've struggled with is understanding that we do need to be a little bit more flexible when it comes to scheduling and our expectations, but also on the other end, we can't be we also realize we need to also be a little bit more structure and firm when it comes to performance management and when it comes to professional development. Like, training is important. You need to attend training, and if you do not attend training, there's consequences. It's been a challenge. I can speak for myself and say it's been a challenge to kind of change that mindset a bit, but to be a little bit more flexible. But I think we will start to see some improvements and that commitment change on their part, right? If we give a little, they'll be willing to give a little too.
Great. Sarah?
Yeah, just as Patrick's talking, it kind of, a lot of those things are very similar for us too. We put a lot of emphasis on our trainings and our requirements for them to attend. We make sure that our trainings are, honestly, they're very repetitive so they can build on their skills and be confident as their employment term goes on. But we make sure that they're fun and they're challenging as well for them, because I think that they appreciate those challenges sometimes. We engage our senior staff a lot. But certainly, especially the last few years, like, we've had to kind of bring on more substitute staff that don't necessarily have any shifts, because we really have struggled, and I'm sure everybody else has too, with finding people to take. We've had to be more flexible with them taking shifts off sometimes, and then we needed to really kind of pad our staffing roster with more subs. And there is always the risk that those subs are going to pick up a job and with hours somewhere else. But at the end of the day, that's okay with me. Go take a job somewhere else, but you've got to make sure you can at least, I don't want to keep you on the next training round if you haven't shown me that you've been picking up shifts, then I'm not going to bother continuing to bring you on to training. So.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge everywhere, is that work-life balance that they talk about, and then also their priorities are elsewhere, for sure. So in overall experience for the staff, do you think do your staff feel that they have a voice that would help either guide the direction of the organization, or at least be listened to and input, so that suggestions and other items might help with better operation within your organization?
I'll start this one. I think I'm lucky. I have a single facility with a small team. I do actually have 50 part-time staff on our roster, and only 1 full-time staff besides myself. But we try really hard to listen to them. Because we have that one single facility, we have a lot more control over the conversations and their attitudes and the workplace environment, and making sure that that's a positive place for them to be. And our doors open. My office is right off the pool. So, like, those kinds of things make a big difference. We really tap into our coordinators to also participate and help on deck. We have a lot of NL instructors as well, but not a lot of NL examiners. And we we will only allow our NL examiners to be on deck during trainings, helping with skills. But any of our other senior staff or coordinators can help run teaching stations and other kind of skill stations, but not evaluating or doing those things. But I think that maybe they don't have a voice in the whole organization, the town as a whole, but in how things run around here, I think that we offer that environment for them to come forward.
All right, thank you. Patrick?
I think that's a goal for us to achieve still. I think we've been going through quite a few transitions and changes over the last couple of years that how we make those changes, we've allowed some input and some feedback, but the decisions on how to make changes, not so what the changes are, not so much. But what we try to do is be informative. So anytime we do make changes, we ensure that we provide them an opportunity to ask questions, an opportunity to provide input, and to express concerns that they may have. For example, if we are making a change, a larger change, we have we schedule town halls where they can come and ask questions and participate. Just with the large numbers, we feel an email is just not enough sometimes, and provide them an opportunity to talk and to give us their personal feedback. We've also really tried to provide opportunity to build relationships. So this year we moved to having before the summer, a summer kickoff event, and where they can participate in some of the planning of that and aspects of, what do we do during the lunchtime, or what areas do they feel they need to provide input. I think one of the areas where training is one of the main areas where we do get feedback from. I believe we have a form at the end of every training, a QR code that they can then go and submit their feedback. And I would really love to do more CPR. And then, Kelly and her team would look at it and say, okay, instead of doing just, this part of CPR, let's add a little more time. Let's do a little bit more resuscitation work, right? That's where we allow them to provide feedback and input. We do allow a lot of, flexibility in the work environment. Like, the head guards have that opportunity to build relationships with their staff for swimming lessons and that kind of stuff. Our coordinators are new, so I think this role has been less than a year in Kitchener, and I think that's really helping to foster that feedback up to the management team, right? They have someone there who's full-time in aquatics, where we didn't have before, that is connected to the deck, and they're able to gather that feedback and information and provide it to us in management. And I'm starting to see some of that feedback trickle back out from management to them.
That's great. All right, thank you. So I'm going to be mindful of time. So we have a few minutes left that we're going to do. So I have one thing that can you share at least one item that you've either learned positively or negatively that you would like to share with you, everyone here, that would maximize their training or retention? Go Patrick first.
Flexibility. I think we've learned that that we do need to provide options. I think there needs to be structure to those options, but we do need to be flexible, and we need to be willing to change and change when that change is needed, on how we do things.
All right, that's great. Thank you. Sarah?
I think that we just need to, listen to our staff too, and draw on their talents and their, even our, junior, newer staff, just kind of making some personal relationships with those staff, and make sure that they feel like they're part of the team, and they know that you're counting on them to be great, and they know that we're there to support them in that development as well. I think those are, my big takeaways, I guess.
On behalf of myself, Robin, and the presenters, Sarah, Patrick, Adam, and Kelly, I do want to thank everyone for their time today. Hopefully you've learned a lot and provided some questions for yourself to then challenge yourselves in figuring out what you can do next. We do look forward to seeing you soon, and thank you very much.